Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, children of all ages. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, children of all ages. We're here. We're going a little bit different direction than we normally do. I'm not seeing chat popping up on my screen. Wake up, chat box. I'm sure to wake up soon enough. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, children of all ages, I am the Old Humble Guy. It is a beautiful morning here at the distillery. Hey, Greg, what's up? We're finishing an order that came in late last night. So I'm actually going in a different direction than I normally go. I'm going to label the bottles first, then fill the bottles. Because it is currently filtering right now. Let me go ahead and turn on the camera. Actually, do a word for me.
Is your bar looking a little ordinary? Is it lacking something awesome? Well, head out to your local liquor store and pick up something extraordinary. Grab a bottle of Old Humble Straight Whiskey or Old Humble Special Reserve. They're clean, smooth, easy drinking whiskeys that taste the way whiskey should taste. From humble beginnings to an extraordinary finish, Old Humble whiskeys are what your bar needs today. Walk tall, be awesome, and drink humble. Old Humble Straight Whiskey and Old Humble Special Reserve. Get yours today.
Get yours today, indeed. I'm here, guys. Ta-da! Usually we go in this direction, like the literal, because I'm here. I've got three. Ooh, loud. The problem is it takes time. So I started filtering half because I needed to get everything going. I couldn't wait the full 2 hours. I started all this about 8 o'clock, about an hour ago. An hour of it filtered, 30 minutes of it filtered, 30 minutes of it filtered. Now we're filtering just enough to get probably about 5, to be honest. But I have 20. I'm like, that's a great problem to have. I don't have 20. Nice girls. Some mic issues. I'm probably, it's probably the mic. When I lean over around the noisy stuff, the mic's probably getting, it'll work itself out in due time. Let's go ahead. Let's. So today, instead of doing the bottling, capping, corking, I'm starting, and then I'm corking and boxing because around 11, so I've got a good solid 2 hours while we do our work, and you can kind of, this is most of what I do, because, you know, when I'm actually doing fermentation, the other aspects of the work, I'm not doing anything, you know? Like the distillation, when that's going on, I'm projects, putting together tables. All right, so the super lagged and behind. It is sounding crap when you move. If I stay static, it's okay. Maybe it's just the way it's fixed on me. Maybe so. Let me move it down here. Maybe that helps. I mean, it might just be. Yeah, it might be me. It might be the wind. have my fan blowing. Maybe that helps. Is that better? Is that my heartbeat? Anyway, not sure what the background noise is on the microphone. But so we're it's our last day of rye. I'm gonna go ahead after I get these 3 cases done and just finish out the batch. I don't have enough box labels to label or to box up the whole batch, but I have enough bottle labels and bottles and all the other stuff, so we'll just get this all put away and done. Last night I was in here late busting up pallets and getting a pile of wood started for my next set of projects. I've got bar games to build. Some of those ring toss bar games. I've got some guys coming in to work on the bathroom. They were supposed to be in here this week, but I guess they'll be coming next week. Since it is now Friday. And the week is over. This is going to make a great photo or video as we fill the bottles that are already labeled. I don't always have video of the bottles that are already labeled being filled. This is going to be awesome. Bring my chat boxes over here. Thanks, Greg. Got it all fixed up. So the big news yesterday was that Queen Elizabeth died. That's unfortunate for the royal family. I guess England's going to go through it and do all the stuff. It's a thing that's never happened. Well, it's a thing that hadn't happened in several people's lifetimes. A thing that didn't happen in my dad's lifetime. She was already queen when he was born. She was still queen when he died. How about that? People live their entire life with only one Queen of England, never knowing another monarch. She seemed like a nice lady, I suppose. I didn't know her. She's just another celebrity in my world. The whole royal family is just a bunch of rich celebrities. I am going to embark on another project this afternoon of making handmade whiskey stones. All right, that's the order. Handmade whiskey stones, little 3/4 inch by 3/4 inch by 3/4 inch granite stones. I think it's going to be a cool little project. Little gift boxes. That's what some of this wood that I busted up. This was a bunch of boxes that were used for our steam generator and steam stuff. These were large walls, protective crate that I busted up in order to get the wood. This wood is going to be turned into whiskey flights for shot glasses, shot flights, sample flights, bar games, and decorative boxes for whiskey stones. And once you realize you have a tile cutter that can cut whiskey stones, or you have a tile cutter that can cut granite, you realize pretty quick that all you need is a slab of granite to make boxes of whiskey stones. I don't like putting actual stones in my whiskey. But some people do. And you know, if you can get a box with a company logo on the box, I think that's a pretty cool Christmas gift, especially if it's only like $15 for a logoed box. And I only need to get a couple of pieces of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I only need to get like a router. And maybe not even a router, maybe just a drill press. Does it block the bottle for labeling, or does it push it? No, the machine doesn't do anything. The machine just sits here. There's a knob right here on the side. There's a knob right here on the side that turns a rubber wheel. That rubber wheel pushes the label to the bottle. This L frame blocks the bottle where it needs to go, and then the rubber tumbler, I guess that's what it would be called, rubber tumbler, turns and rolls the bottle down and provides just enough pressure to apply the label to the bottle. It is a semi-manual, like it's a manual machine. I would really like it if this machine was automated, so that I could literally just set the bottle on here, hit a button, roll it. Bzz, bzz, bzz. We have a round bottle labeler that is that's an automated, semi-automated labeler, I suppose. You put the bottle in a little carriage. It goes this way. You put the bottle in a little carriage, hit the button, it goes zzz, spins the bottle. All right, we're there. Where's my paddle? It's right here. I once lost this paddle for a solid week because I had put it in a barrel. I had finished bottling out of the barrel, or finished filtering, set it in the barrel, closed the barrel up, and forgot that I had left it in the barrel. And I was beside myself. I took all the wood that we had stacked up down, pieces of cardboard, lifted it up. I took the entire distillery apart looking for this goddamn paddle, and it was inside one of my barrels. When I finally found it, I was fucking livid. I was absolutely livid when I finally found it. I was relieved, but also livid that I would be so fucking stupid. But 'tis the life. 'Tis the life I chose to lead. Now we're done filtering. At least we're done filtering this batch. What I'm going to do now is go back. Okay, that's good. What I'm going to do now is go back to the first stage and start filtering the first stage again. I saved the filters that we used, or that I used. I always use the royal we when I talk about the distillery. We are going to blah, 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 blah. We aren't going to do shit. I'm going to do me, myself, if you need something, you talk to my marketing department, you talk to my customer service department. That's me. I'm my marketing department. I'm my customer service department. And I'm telling you, take a number, but does not look likely that we will get to you today. please send it to the email address of trash at... No, I'm kidding. I mean, yeah, probably I'm not going to get to it today, but your concerns are important to us. If it's important to you, call me. Figure out how to get a hold of me. I'm not that hard to get a hold of. All right, tighten you up good. You go that way. Now, what's really cool about whiskey, at least, is the unfiltered stuff that falls out of the filter. I can always drop it back into the barrel and get it to go one more time. As long as I keep this thing relatively clean and wash it out. And, we don't have funky stuff. Like Marky Mark's Bunch. They are funky. All right, back to the task at hand. What are we talking about? Dustin at Top Shelf. Oh, Dustin's here. Cheers, Dustin. I need boxes to protect my bottles from shocks and smells. It was mostly main room and also where I eat. You missed a friend on YouTube from Australia earlier on. He was imprudent enough to let people go live by letting a public link. He accepted complete unknown people live who did troll his live punch. Huh. How do you let people... Every live software that I've used allows the producer, the host, to kick people out of the room. How do you have people on the damn show that join in without being able to manage who those people are and not being able to kick them out? Like, what software does that? And also why I don't do panel shows. Those are almost, well, I've encountered very few good ones. I've encountered a few good ones, but the panel group chats where it's just chaos and unmanaged and uncontrolled. Good Lord. Kid's stream was nuked yesterday. You can't stream for 90 days. Holy shit. Well, even StreamYard puts people in the basement. You gotta, affirm them and let them come up, and you can still kick them off stream. Does StreamYard have a setting where you can't? Where it's just a wide open forum? And that sounds like chaos. If you saw... Yeah. So anyway, this is the end of... This is the end of the order that's coming. The trucks, they said the truck would be coming at 11. I told him get it here early afternoon if he could. He said, okay, 11 o'clock. That's not early afternoon, dude. That's late morning. Which is why I'm doing a half batch, 2 half batches right away. Sounds like the filter's struggling back there, to be honest. Because normally I would just go through my normal process of filter, and then as the third filter's running, get going on the filling the bottles, labeling the bottles, or filling the bottles, corking the bottles, labeling the bottles. But in this case, I needed to collapse the process a little bit. I screwed that up. Sometimes what happens is the label gets a little bit too high on the roller, so it sets a little bit too low on the bottle. I'm sorry, reverse that. Sometimes the label starts too low and it sets too low on the bottle and it ends up being hanging off the bottom. Most of the time, it gets put in the right spot. There's a ridge on this bottle right here, and the label goes right under the ridge. These machines come with a laser sight that goes right here, and it sets a line across the tumbler to tell you where the label should be. But if you do this enough, you know where it's supposed to be, and you don't need a laser sight to tell you. See, you can't tell. Right there, every time, almost every time. Never invite less now. I did add those trolls names on my filter and pick some mods for future live shows. All right. I mean, it's good to have mods in the chat. I have several of you folks scattered around that are mods, but even on Zoom, if I wanted to kick Lisa off of Zoom, I could kick Lisa off the Zoom call. That's not all right. Bingo. And when I was using StreamYard, I distinctly remember, you come into StreamYard, you go into the basement, and while they're in the basement, the show still goes on while they're in the basement. The green room, if you will. Oh, maybe it's changed. That's not where I want it to be. Lower it down a little bit. So the last stuff that we did was vodka. And the vodka bottles are taller than the whiskey bottles. That's where I want it to be, right there at the end of the neck. The vodka bottles are taller than the whiskey bottles. So I set the tray lower, obviously. And when I set the tray lower, well, I have to reset it when I come back to do my whiskey. And now it's time to record a TikTok. Who's here? All right. So we're gonna do a fly-in zoom from over here. It's a little 15 seconds, and they kind of go across like this, and then back, and stop here. Oh wait, I gotta have the air bubbles out of the damn line first. Otherwise, it looks like shit. This is how it's done. Delete the video. All right, we're done. Air bubbles are out of the line. Drain the bottles out. I'm really glad y'all enjoy looking at my back. Because that's what y'all see for most of these shows. Or at least half of the shows. You see my back and my head, and that's it. All right. Everybody nice and situated. And here we go. My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard. Damn right, it's better than yours. I could teach you, but I have to charge. My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard. Damn right, it's better than yours. Damn right, it's better than yours. There we go. And yes, that's the song that I'm going to use on that particular video. 15 seconds of it's one of my favorite songs to use on these videos. It absolutely is. Because my milkshake does bring all the look at that. There's like 3 boys right out there right now. Oh, it's not on camera. Y'all can't see. Oh, you just have to trust me. All right, back to the sure. Yeah, 90 days is a damn eternity. But yeah, hopefully it'll get it all sorted out, because that sucks. For a live streamer to not be able to go for 90 days, but I guess it's also a cautionary tale about, just letting whomever come up onto your show. Excuse me. Got a little tickle in my throat. I only had 1 cup of coffee this morning. All right, we are at the bottom of this barrel. Okay. So here was the remarkable thing. The cool thing, one of the remarkable things that I saw about Queen Elizabeth's lifespan over the course of 96 years. What was that? From 1930, 1925. She saw the fall of European great power empires, Germany, Austria, Hungary, the fall of the monarchies, the rise of the democracies, the dissolution of her imperial holdings through the 1950s, Great Depression, World War II, women's suffrage, civil rights, the end of Jim Crow laws in the United States. Not that she had anything to do with that, but all right. There's just little drips left in there. I'm gonna dump them in. Now that has to get rinsed out because it is full of filth. Full of filth. Filth and flam and flarm. She didn't see the invention of cars, but she saw the development of the automotive society. She didn't see industrialization that had started in the 1800s before her birth. Saw the persecution and death of Alan Turing, and during her lifetime, not only the persecution and death of Alan Turing for being gay, but the legalization of being gay and existing in society during her lifetime. And the commentary was that history is not just something we read about. It is something that we live through and do on a daily basis. We're writing, as we live and breathe, future history. We are doing the things today that future historians will write about. We are doing the things today, and not even future historians like 2, 3, 4 generations from now. Just like future historians who live right now. We're talking about future history being written in real time, which is pretty fucking remarkable if you think about it. How remarkable the world can change within our lifetimes, within the scope of generations. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And it's just a question of what kind of history do we want to write in our lifetimes? What changes do we want? How do we want the world to look when these future historians write the history? What story do we want told? And some people have the singular power, like a queen, to direct a significant portion of that story. But we all have in our power the ability to write chapters to that story. And you know, every musical has the background dancers. We can all be a part of the story. I mean, I would actually be amused to see one musical with like a group of background dancers who are just like, this is stupid. I'm not gonna do it. But the reality is, in the history that we write every day, there are the people who sit there with their arms folded, tapping their feet, the sour damn look on their face, going, "No, I'm not gonna do it. Don't want to do it. I'm not gonna be involved in it now." And you know, history doesn't give a shit about those people because it moves around them, and they get left behind, dragged into the future, kicking and screaming, whether they like it or not. The filters state what? Emptying operation to get rid of excess whiskey to be able to cork the bottle. Okay, so what I'm doing, Greg, what I'm doing is, so the first thing I did was I had to get bubbles out of the line of the bottle filler so that I would have nice, clean whiskey and not a bunch of air bubbles in there. Because the air bubbles, while they'll settle out, the air bubbles will settle out. It can potentially affect the volume. You know, the bubbles are trapped inside the whiskey. They're suspended inside here. So when they bubble up to the top, the whiskey level can go down a little bit. And I don't want that to happen in the bottle. So I get those air bubbles out. It's not going to affect it significantly, but a couple of milliliters can show up, especially if it's on the shelf next to the other bottles that are full. So that's that. But this machine is not perfect. It's basically a tube, a pump and a tube that goes into a four-way splitter. And there are air bubbles that get trapped in that four-way splitter that affect the levels of each nozzle and can randomly affect each nozzle differently. So usually it's these two that are a little bit low and these two that are a little bit high. But in this case, this one's just a little bit high, and this one's right at the level that I want it to be. This one's maybe a little bit lower than I want it to be. This one's a little bit lower than I want it to be. So I'll take this little extra bit that's just, I mean, we're talking 5 milliliters maybe, and I'll add it to this bottle to level them all out. And they're pretty okay. It's, you know, within a 3 or 4 milliliters either direction. That's the tolerance that the TTB allows us to have. I think it's 5 milliliters. I can't remember what the exact number is, but you got to be really close to the 750. And when I'm looking at them on the shelves, I want them to be similar in height. I don't want them to be super low, but this one to be super high. That's just bad presentation. Precise equipment when it comes to what it is that they're putting together. You know, their variances are much tighter. Their tolerances, rather, are much tighter, and their variances are much lower. And they need to be because they're running volumes that are much greater. So, you know, a 2 milliliter, 5 milliliter difference on a million bottles. You know, 5% of a million is what, 50,000? Yeah, 50,000 bottles times a half a milliliter or 5 milliliters turns into several bottles of wasted whiskey. But maybe they don't care. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, and inside here, that air bubble will float around and mess with the. See, this one's low now. These are pretty much steady, so I'm going to hit it one more time and get a little bit more juice in this one, so I can top it off with that one, and that's perfect. Perfect enough. And then I'm going to merge those two, and that one's perfect, and this one's a little high, so I'm just going to, see, in this case, I don't want the neck to be half full. I really want it to be down here closer to the bottom. So I'll dip a little out, and we're all set. And again, it's one of those things that takes, when I was first doing this, I had a measuring bowl, calibrating that down to 5/100ths of a second. So it's 27.05 is what it's at right now. Because I calibrated the crap out of it just to make sure it was what I needed it to be. But now I've done this enough that I can eyeball it, and I have a pretty good sense of where it needs to be and what it needs to be. I do have some folks that work with me that will be much more fastidious about the filling operation, and as a consequence, much slower with the filling operation, which is fine because it's still about the same speed that I can seal and cork the bottles. So it works out good in the end. Now I've got 3 cases done, and looking over here, yeah, I've still got plenty. Yeah, I've got probably 9 more cases. Maybe 12 more cases. By the way, this is what the filter looks like after the first filtration. That is all barrel residue and crud. So I probably have about 15 total, so probably 12 more cases that I'll be able to do later on this afternoon. But the mission critical item right now is getting these 3 cases done and dusted, boxed and bottled, or bottled and boxed, and finished up. So when the truck comes, I'll be able to put all 20 cases from my pallet onto the truck. So another remarkable thing that I noted yesterday was Queen Elizabeth died. It was announced something like 11 o'clock our time. Something like 11 o'clock our time. I don't remember what exactly I was doing, but starting up a movie or something while I was doing some computer work. Speaking of which, I got to go take care of something real quick. Microphone back on. All right. So anyway, what was also somewhat remarkable, I thought, was Queen Elizabeth died. Her death was announced at something like 11 o'clock yesterday. And within the same announcement, her death was at 11 o'clock. Within that announcement, within that same time frame, Charles's title was changed to king. Yeah, they didn't wait for the coronation. They didn't wait for an announcement. They didn't mess it up. They didn't misname him by accident or anything like that. They were just, it's Prince Charles, now it's King Charles. Which just goes to show how much of a bitch Jordan Peterson is for being unable to remember the names or use the proper names of people when they say they have changed their name. And it's not a question of unable, it's a question of refusal to do so. Because using the right name is not that hard to do. And for other people too. They want to be called Mr. instead of Mrs. They want to be called Miss instead of Mrs. or Mrs. instead of Miss. It's not really that hard to do it. You know? They can do Prince instead of King or King instead of Prince within the scope of an hour without official documentation. It's not really that hard to do. And Jordan Peterson is a bitch. And that is a hill that I would be happy to die on. Because I'm even willing to admit it, that sometimes I can be a bitch. All right, whiskey's moving. Last filtration run is going. Which is also why it's not so hard for a normal, decent person to remember company names and brands. You know, if the company changes its name, like Minute Maid Park downtown, it was Exxon or Enron Field for the first 6 years of its existence. Enron collapsed. Minute Maid bought the naming rights. Hey, we were able to call it Minute Maid Park right away. The Summit Compact Center, now it's Lakewood Church. The Astrodome is the Astrodome, but Reliant Stadium became NRG Stadium. We do it all the time. And it's actually really easy to do. Which just goes to show Jordan Peterson is a bitch. Isn't he Canadian? I honestly don't know a whole lot about it. I do know he's a bitch. Arms folded. I'm not gonna do it. It's kind of a bitch. And while we're at it, the people who cross their arms and bitch and cry and just, I'm not gonna do it. The little crybabies who refuse to participate in history. when you just fold your arms and say, yep, I'm a bitch. That's just who I am. Man, that is about the most infantile thing. I'm a bitch. That's just how I am. That's how I was made. That's how I'm going to be. I've been a bitch all my life, and I'm going to die a bitch. Like, that is the most toddler thing you could do. I mean, you know, growing up is a whole process of becoming a grown-up, learning how to do things. I mean, Jesus, my 11-year-old just last night was learning for the first time how to write a middle school English paper. And can you imagine being in school, folding your arms and saying, I'm not going to learn how to do this. I refuse. I mean, you wouldn't get through middle school. you would be a perpetual middle schooler, bounced out, and aged out. Not dropped out, mind you. They wouldn't count you as a dropout. They would count you as no longer meets requirements to be in school. That's how they get around the dropout requirements, at least in the state of Texas. If you drop out before you're 18, you're a dropout. But if you no longer meet the requirements of being in school, you do not count as a dropout. They're not required to keep you in school past a certain age. And I think it's actually lower than 18. I don't remember what the age is. What do we got going on? Square tables in the house. Cheers, my man. So what we got going on right now is the final stages of the first part of an order that needs to go out the door, and they will be here in less than an hour. So I needed to make sure I had these 3 cases completed. So I crashed the process. I started the filtration, started the labeling during the filtration, cut the filtration short to make sure I had just enough to finish the order. Like I said, they're going to be here in about an hour, and I had all this other stuff that needed to be done. So I didn't have time to wait for the full 40 gallons. I think it's 39 gallons I actually have in there. I didn't have time to wait for the full 40 gallons to go through the filtration process. First step, second step, third step, all the way through. So I kind of cut it off to make sure I had enough for 3 cases. Labeled my bottles, cork, seal, boxings next. They're going to be all done, all set, done and dusted, sat on the pallet and ready to go out the door for when the truck arrives. They'll be sitting right over here by the outdoor. And then I'll be able to finish the bottling at my leisure. It doesn't have to get done today, but I'll probably make a big dent in it this afternoon because I actually have some other stuff I need to get done this afternoon after the truck leaves. So this is going to be a relatively short day in the life. After the truck leaves, I want to I got some things I can do here before I get out of here. I probably have to get out of here around 12:30 or so. But I need to run up to Home Depot. I need to get some tools from the house. And I want to get a bench vertical drill press for another project that I need to work on. Next week, we're going to finish the bar. Sand it, stain it, and seal it. And then put the final touch of the Old Humble Texas flag on the front of the bar, which will be beautiful. Tried the hairdryer one time, last step for the bottle of your own. Failed miserably. It was in a show, mind you, after a couple of drinks. Hair dryers, this this is a little bit more than a hairdryer. Now, a hairdryer would work as long as you've got a high setting, a very high setting on the hairdryer, and it can go hot and high. I always used, for my stuff I did at home, the wine bottles that I did at home, I would do either, I would do the capsules, the sheaths that go over the top, and dip them in boiling water. So I'd cork them, put the sheath on, have the pot boiling, or just under boiling, and then I'd hold the sheath, the neck of the bottle, and I'd dip it in there so that it would seal on the top, and then I'd take my hand away, obviously, because the water was hot, just dip it down the rest of the way, and that was it. That was all I needed to do when I did, because I did hair dryer, but when I did the capsules, that's how I did the capsules. And I would like to go back to doing the capsules with my whiskey, because I like the way they look, and I hate these little plastic condoms, shrink-a-dink things. I absolutely hate these little shrink seals, because they take. It's hard to automate this process. I want to get it much more automated, where I can just like take a. They have guns that you can just put over the top. I guess it's not a gun. I guess it's an inductive heat thing. You can just put over the top and ring it that way. But I can't do it with these because I've seen a. I've seen people use a charcoal starter, a hot ring, literally a hot ring, just go zip it down around the outside, which might work really well, but I'm worried that it might be too hot. But that's another thing that I want to try and do. Get just a ring of heat that I can drop down on it to do this much quick. Filters, bottom of the barrel. All right, sweet. What's this? This is written in Japanese or Korean or Chinese. I don't know. Awesome. Oh shit! I have parts that I need to return to these guys. Oh. So it is a heavy alcohol content in the air right here, and it smells like heaven. Almost heaven. West Virginia, the Blue Ridge Mountains, the Shenandoah River. Life is old there, older than the sky. Than the sky, taste moonshine, teardrop in my eye, country roads. Get nostalgic with that song. Funny how songs conjure memories. Come on. But I guess that's what's great about songs and art in general. The taste of the right whiskey, sip of the right wine can bring you right back to that cafe, that bar, that moment in time that is etched in your mind forever. All right. What is wrong with you? You piece of crap. Where are you not? The way the senses combine like that. Gotta love it. Come on. You know what? I bet you don't even go on that barrel. That was a red van that looked just like my wife's. I don't think it was my wife, though. Because she should not be here right now. She should be teaching. All right. This one goes on this barrel. Seal you up. And finally, these barrels aren't all perfectly round. Which makes reseating their lids a challenge sometimes. Because they don't always want to reseat. All right. Back to the order. And I've got about 45 minutes before the truck is scheduled to be here. Anyway. For me, John Denver, his country roads are the highways between Natchitoches, Louisiana and Lufkin, Texas. Because Lufkin is on Highway 59 and where we would turn right to go to Louisiana and left to come back to Houston. And in between Lufkin and Natchitoches were two towns, Manny and Milam. And in between Manny and Milam, Manny, Louisiana, Milam, Texas. In between Manny and Milam, there was no radio coverage, no real radio coverage. That's where you lost the music out of Texas and you start picking up the music out of Louisiana. So when we went back to my parents' home, as my dad would say, go ahead and head home. When they went back to their home in Louisiana, Natchitoches. I never lived in Natchitoches, so it's not home to me. Whenever they went back home is Houston to me. I've always lived here. I was born in Ohio, but I don't consider Ohio home. I never went back home to Ohio. I only lived there for a couple of years. I don't remember much of the state. It was covered in snow most of the time, at least in my memory. And when I go back to Ohio, the handful of times I've been back to Ohio and it's been lush and green, beautiful, like I don't remember this place. I remember a frozen white wasteland that looked like Hoth. That's how I remember, snow, this much snow. Of course, I was this tall, so it's probably this much snow, which is still a lot of snow. The blizzard of 76, the blizzard of 77. We got out of there that summer of 77. Anyway. For me, those country roads were always Highway 6, U.S. Highway 6 in Louisiana, and I think it was Highway 6. can't remember what the highway is going out. It became 6. I think it was Louisiana Highway 6 in Louisiana that led into Manny. Maybe it was. Now I got to look and see what that highway is going out of. Going out of Lufkin. I got to look, see what that highway is. Go all the way up to Lufkin, and it's a right turn. Oop, zoomed out way too far there. Lufkin. Going out of Lufkin, we have Highway 103, which becomes Highway 6 in Louisiana. Am I right about that? I might be wrong about that. 103 going out of Lufkin. Texas 103 crosses the Sabine River at the Toledo Bend Reservoir. And it becomes, in Louisiana, I believe it's Louisiana Highway 6. There it is. Texas 103, Texas 103. It can't still be Texas 103 in Louisiana. Keep going east, keep going east, keep going east. Switches onto Texas 21. There's Milam. Across the Sabine River. There it is, Louisiana 6. I was right about Louisiana 6. Anyway, it might have been 78. No, I think we were in Texas by 78. I can't remember. I was just a baby. I was 2 or 3 years old when we left Ohio. I was 2. If I was 2, then we could have been there for the blizzard of 78, and we left in 70. No, we definitely didn't leave in 79. We're definitely in Beaumont by 1979 because my 5th birthday was an Incredible Hulk sheet cake in Beaumont. Lumberton is where we lived, in Beaumont. Anyway, the highway between Manny and Milam, it is in the middle of the deepest, darkest, thickest East Texas forest. It's the Big Thicket National Forest area. It is the land that time forgot. And I'm not even being hyperbolic about that. It is, it's one of those parts of the world where electricity came in the 1950s because it was in between major metro areas. Manny is just a dot on the map. Milam is, Manny's actually a nice little town. Milam is literally a dot on the map that, it's like a produce stand, a flashing yellow light, a high school, middle school, elementary school that are all kind of on the same property. It is a small little East Texas, town where the high school basketball coach is also the sheriff. The high school basketball coach is the sheriff. The football coach is also the principal. That kind of place. Anyway, it's a big paper factory, paper mill in Lufkin. That's where we turn left to go to Houston and right to go to Natchitoches. What I'm saying is, there's no radio. When you get outside of Lufkin, the radio ends. You get to Milam, Lufkin radio stops when you get to Milam. That's the edge of Lufkin radio, and that's when you get into the East Texas deep woods. Snake handling preachers on the radio on AM and FM. The snake handling preachers, the Lord will provide. Duh. Preachers that will dance and speak in tongues and handle snakes, because in the last chapters of Matthew, and men will prophesy, and snakes will not hurt them, and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, we're talking country roads. And that is where we would pop in the music on the trip. Merle Haggard, Willie Nelson, 8 tracks. When we had our old Pontiac Bonneville, big yellow land ship of a fucking car the size of a battle cruiser. It was massive. Big enough back seat, fit 3 grown children. 6, the youngest being 6 years old. By the time I was 8, my little brother was born. We got a van for the family, a full-size conversion van, a big damn thing. But those first trips, up until the point where I was 8, that was in Pontiac, the Bonneville, 8-track. And we would listen to the classics. And John Denver's greatest hits. Come on. Country roads. Would take us between Manny and Milam. Literally taking my dad home one direction. My mom too. She's from Natchitoches. They're both from Natchitoches. Small town boy, small town girl, both from Natchitoches. Distant cousins, because that's how small towns in Louisiana work. That's how small towns everywhere work. But you got to go back like 6 generations or something like that. And it's grandmothers, brothers, and stuff like that. Not remotely direct, but John Denver's country roads, for me, it's always been Texas 21, 105, and Louisiana 6. Between Manny and Milam. There's no mountains here. Certainly no Shenandoah River. I didn't know what the misty taste of moonshine was. But I sure as hell knew. Country roads could take me home. Boom. Boom. All right, the order is done. And now I can get on with just work for the sake of work. Never went that west. Started shyly in 1988, never much into it until my first trip to Scotland. Yeah, Scotch, was my introduction to whiskey in general, because so many different scotches. Every time I drank a scotch, it tasted different, and unique, and pleasant, and lively, and it was so delightful. And every time I drank whiskey, bourbon specifically, but every time I had American whiskeys, it tasted the same as the last bottle that I had. And I've talked at length about this, that, thinking about it now, knowing now what goes into the flavor profiles of whiskeys, you know, how all of its color comes from the barrel, 60% of its flavor comes from between 40 and 60% of its flavor comes from the barrel. A lot of its character and texture comes from the climate, water climate, and just aging environment that it gets aged in. And you could take 5 whiskeys from the same still, send them to 5 different points, and age them in 5 different places, and you get 5 different whiskeys coming back. I mean, Scotland demonstrates that on the daily. You know, the distillation techniques in Scotland aren't vastly different. The water they use is not vastly different, but damn, the aging zones and the styles, and they are so unique and different from each of their zones that you get such different flavors and such different whiskeys coming out of basically the same mash bills. And there's differences in the mash bills, don't get me wrong, but they're basically the same damn mash bill. And meanwhile, here in the States, you know, the vast majority of bourbon, fuck me, there's wood under my pallet jack here. The vast majority of bourbons in the United States, at least when I was introduced to bourbons at a younger age, all came from the same 60-mile region. Ugh. So, if you have the same barrel, the same water, the same climate, and generally the same mash bill, you're getting generally the same whiskey. Or at least it tastes generally similar. And especially if you have one bottle every, whatever, 6 or 8 months, and you have a different bottle, and then a different bottle, you know, 3 months apart, you're not getting a drastic